top student accidentally looked at the class bully. As a result, he was slammed against the wall. But the bullies didn't know that they would soon regret this behavior deeply. The boy's face turned red as he struggled to breathe. Many students gathered around, but they only stood there as if watching a show. One of the sidekicks hesitated, but the main bully insisted he keep choking him. Luckily, a teacher arrived in time. The tense scene finally came to a halt. The bully tried to explain that it was just a joke, but the teacher wasn't buying it. Then the bully threatened the boy again. If you still want to go to school, you'd better wise up. Now get back to class. The boy couldn't concentrate and began slapping his own face. His classmates were shocked by the scene. The teacher looked at him with concern. The boy muttered softly, "My name is Ji Hoon." He acted out so strangely because the bully sitting behind him had drugged him. He walked straight toward the bully. He couldn't take it anymore. Then he picked up a textbook and slammed it into the bully's face. Next, he stabbed the sidekick with a ballpoint pen. Finally, he beat the bully with his fists. Lesson learned. That boy's name is Ji Hoon. He's a well-known top student in school, but he prefers to keep to himself, so he doesn't have many friends. In his spare time, he listens to music while reading. His conflict with the bullies began just a few days ago. That day, Ji Hoon did exceptionally well in an exam. He won a gold medal in the math competition. Coincidentally, the class bully also won a bronze medal. But because Ji Hoon outshined him, the bully held a grudge. When Ji Hoon received his certificate, the class was silent. But when the bully got his bronze, everyone applauded. Jealous, the bully returned to his seat. Then he glared menacingly at Ji Hoon. He hated being overshadowed by anyone. After class, he and his crew went back to bullying other classmates. He forced one to dance awkwardly and made them all buy drinks for him. That's when he noticed Ji Hoon still studying alone at his desk. He grabbed a shoe and threw it at him. After that, the bully didn't forget to throw in some mockery. Then he pretended to offer an apology to Ji Hoon. Ji Hoon calmly replied, "So, Prince Bully wants to be a chef now?" This embarrassed the bully even more. He approached Ji Hoon's desk and started mocking him again, but Ji Hoon gave him no face whatsoever. Memorizing a few more words is better than wasting breath. Just as the bully was about to attack in anger, a group of baseball team members barged into the classroom. They were looking for someone named Suho. The classmates all pointed toward the corner. After waking up, Suho learned they were there because of a girl who had a crush on Suho, but he didn't care. The other guy was extremely jealous. He charged forward, ready to beat him up. He was way too aggressive. But thankfully, Suho was trained. In a flash, he took them all down. He even coolly told them, "She's just my fan. Look how rattled you are over that." Even the class bullies were shocked by the scene, but only Ji Hoon stared at him with a piercing look. Turns out during the fight, they accidentally knocked over Ji Hoon's pencil case. Seeing that, Suho quickly picked it up and apologized. But Ji Hoon still refused to accept it. He said bitterly, and Suho just gave a helpless smile and walked away. But things between Ji Hoon and the bullies were far from over. The next day, they threw Ji Hoon's gym uniform into the toilet. When PE class began, Ji Hoon realized his uniform was missing. He turned to look at the bullies, and deep down, he knew they were responsible. But with no proof, he couldn't do anything. When he got to the track, he had no choice but to run without his gym clothes. Since Ji Hoon put all his energy into studying, he had lacked physical stamina and struggled to run. Meanwhile, Suho finished first in 6 minutes and 12 seconds. Ji Hoon lagged far behind, already out of breath after only a few steps. The bullies laughed hysterically at him, mocking his running posture with exaggerated gestures. Suho couldn't stand the bullying, so he threw a shoe at one of their heads. In the face of real strength, the bullies didn't dare to act out. They quietly picked up the shoe and handed it back to Suho. But in the locker room, they were still mocking Ji Hoon. Just as the bullies were feeling proud of themselves, Ji Hoon walked straight up to them. He told them to back off. But that kind of warning meant nothing to them. Just as Ji Hoon was about to leave, one of the henchmen suddenly shoved him against the wall. The bully smirked, seeing how weak Ji Hoon looked, realizing that he had only been bluffing. Just as things got dangerous for Ji Hoon, a teacher showed up and put an end to it. The bully looked frustrated. He quickly claimed they were just joking around, then threatened Ji Hoon not to say a word, or else you'll disappear without a trace. Afraid of further threats, Ji Hoon stayed silent. That night, Ji Hoon was quietly studying. Suddenly, someone knocked at the door. It turned out to be Suho. Apparently, Suho had mixed up the address while delivering food. He didn't know how to explain it properly, so he awkwardly asked Ji Hoon for a glass of water. Before Ji Hoon could respond, Suho walked right in. With no other choice, Ji Hoon handed him a glass of water. Suho downed it without hesitation. At that moment, neither of them knew they would soon become the best of friends. The next day, a transfer student named Beom Seok arrived. He wore glasses and looked very polite. His meek appearance immediately drew the attention of the bullies. Just as they were about to start bullying him, Seon stepped in and walked up behind them. "Is that you?" Without hesitation, Seon raised his pen again and warned them firmly to back off. The bully scoffed and was about to strike, but Suho, who had just woken up, stepped in to mediate. He managed to stop the fight just in time. The bully was fuming with rage. He wanted to make Seon bow down in humiliation, so they targeted what mattered most to Seon: his grades. They found some thugs and bought mysterious pills. The next day, the bully approached Beomseok again and brought up something Beomseok had kept hidden. It turned out Beomseok had been bullied before. That's why he transferred here. The bully promised to keep his secret, but in exchange, Beomseok had to do as he was told. Then he pulled a sticker out of his pocket. Beomseok knew what it was, but he was too scared to react. Left with no choice, Beomseok could only follow the bully's orders. Soon, the mock exam day arrived. Because Beomseok sat behind Seon, the bully ordered him to slap the sticker onto the back of Seon's neck. Seon didn't think much of it. He kept working on the test, unaware anything was wrong. But as he answered questions, he started feeling dizzy. Seon tried silently reciting the questions to stay awake. Soon, sweat began pouring down his face. As time passed, his vision grew increasingly blurry. Eventually, he stumbled to the restroom, splashing water on his face to try and stay awake, but he still felt dazed when he returned to his seat. Seon slowly reached for the back of his neck and realized he had been set up. To keep himself alert, and he began slapping his own face repeatedly. His strange behavior stunned everyone in the room. He didn't stop until his cheeks were bright red. When the teacher asked what happened, Seon could only reply that he was fine. The test ended and they began checking answers. But Seon realized he had gotten a question wrong, when he should have answered correctly. This infuriated him, even though he had normally avoided conflict. He turned his gaze to Beomseok, who in turn looked toward the bully. Without hesitation, Seon stood up and walked slowly toward the bully's desk. His mind was racing, analyzing every possible outcome. Then he grabbed a book and smashed it full force against the bully's head. Then he quickly stabbed another henchman in the hand with a pen. Everyone was shocked by the brutality of his actions, but Seon wasn't done. He slammed a powerful punch into the bully's face. He kept striking him, pouring out all his pent-up rage, until the bully could no longer resist. The bully collapsed, completely unconscious. But Seon wasn't finished. Just as he raised his leg to stomp him, fortunately, Yeon Seon was stopped just in time by Suho, who told him to let it go. In truth, Suho did it to protect Seon, hoping he wouldn't escalate the situation. But by that point, Seon was already consumed by rage. He grabbed a chair and kept swinging it at Suho. Unexpectedly, Suho countered with a punch. Seon had completely forgotten Suho was trained in martial arts. Still, Seon refused to back down. He was about to attack again. But luckily, the teacher arrived just in time to stop everything. That evening, the teacher took Seon to the hospital to apologize to the bully. But the bully's mother wouldn't stop complaining, saying she would have Seon sent to juvenile detention. With no other choice, Seon pulled out the sticker. It was the illegal substance the bully had placed on his neck. The bully panicked at the sight of it. Still, he firmly denied any involvement. Seon had anticipated his denial, so he turned the bully's bag upside down. As expected, more of the banned stickers fell out. The bully's mother was stunned. To prevent the issue from escalating further, the teacher advised her to transfer her son to another school, but the bully still showed no remorse. He blamed everything on Seon and was already plotting his revenge. The next morning at school, two of the bully's lackeys approached Seon, threatening him to stay after class if you dare. But Seon wasn't one to be intimidated by minions. He simply clapped his hands in response, then all three of them walked into the restroom. Other students gathered around to watch. Inside, Seon calmly locked the door behind them. He then pulled out a pen from his pocket and began clicking it repeatedly. He wasn't doing this randomly. It was based on Pavlov's classical conditioning. In the experiment, the sound of a bell and food delivery made dogs salivate. It created a conditioned reflex. The two lackeys, who had previously been terrified by this pen, instantly reacted with fear just from the sound of the click. That was how Seon defeated them without lifting a finger. They collapsed in fear. And just like that, Seon walked out of the restroom without a scratch. Some classmates began trying to get closer to him, but Seon only wanted to focus on studying. Meanwhile, the bully still felt humiliated, so he spent a large sum to hire a thug. He hoped the hired thug could help him get revenge. Since Suho had stopped Seon just in time that day, Seon invited him out to lunch as a way to apologize. The two shared a meal together, deepening their bond as friends. But Seon had no idea a brutal fight was looming. After school came around quickly, Ha-jun approached Seon to apologize for the sticker incident, but Seon was still upset and ignored him, then turned and walked away. Sure enough, as soon as he reached the school gate, a group of thugs blocked Si-yoon's path. He didn't want to engage them, but the gang leader suddenly stepped in to block him. It was clear the thugs had taken money to do the job, and so, in front of other students, they dragged Si-yoon away. Watching from the crowd, Ha-jun felt ashamed for what was happening. He quickly rushed back to the classroom and woke Suho up, asking him for help. But Suho was busy with his delivery job and couldn't leave, so Ha-jun offered to pay him triple the rate to buy his time. Unable to resist the offer, Suho agreed. The two of them quickly hopped on a motorbike and rushed to the scene. Meanwhile, Si-yoon had been taken to a dead-end alley by the thugs. The bully threatened to break his hand so he'd never be able to write or study again. Though outnumbered, Si-yoon remained completely calm. His mind raced through countless possible tactics. Then in one swift motion, he pulled a pen from his chest pocket and struck the gang leader. But the opponent reacted just as fast. Si-yoon quickly followed up by smashing his phone at him, then grabbed a flower pot and hurled it hard. He truly lived up to his reputation as a top student. His calculation of timing and force was spot on. Before the other thugs could react, he had already taken them down. Just like that, Si-yoon won the fight in lightning-fast fashion. But just as he tried to leave, the gang leader grabbed him and violently threw him aside. The bully took the chance to kick him several times. They even pinned Si-yoon's hand to the ground and stomped on it. Just as Si-yoon was losing hope, Suho arrived in the nick of time. With a flying kick, he took two guys down at once. He spun around stylishly and helped Si-yoon off the ground. With just a single glare from Suho, the bullies began to shrink back. But the gang leader wasn't done. He launched another attack. He jumped in and started brawling with Suho. But Suho, being a trained fighter, was unfazed. Still, the gang leader clearly had some training too. Meanwhile, the school bully spotted Si-yoon alone again and rallied the others to attack him all at once. Outnumbered once more, Si-yoon was quickly knocked to the ground. As the bully was about to land a crushing blow, Ha-jun appeared and successfully saved Si-yoon. Seeing this, Si-yoon was deeply moved. All past grudges vanished in that moment. And just like that, the fight ended. The thugs had gained nothing from Suho and had to retreat. Unable to win, they simply left. Only the school bully remained dumbfounded. Si-yoon gave him one final warning. Be smart. Know your limits. After going through that ordeal together, the three of them became close friends. To thank them for saving him, Si-yoon offered to treat them to barbecue. But when they arrived, he realized it was the place where Suho worked. Because the fight had made him fall behind on his shift, Si-yoon decided to help him out temporarily. After wrapping up the busy day, the three of them enjoyed barbecue together. It was a celebration of their hard-won victory and growing friendship. Meanwhile, the gang leader reported what happened to the crime boss. The boss was furious, feeling utterly humiliated. His men couldn't even beat a few high school kids. In a rage, he threw 2 punches on the spot, lecturing his underlings on how to be truly ruthless. The boss was no ordinary thug either. He would do anything for money. He even ran illegal gambling sites targeting money-hungry teens. He also ran a loan shark business, and if people couldn't pay up, his crew would beat them. They wouldn't stop until the parents came with cash. This man was utterly brutal and merciless, and now he wanted revenge for his men. The gang boss decided to have the school bully lure Si-yoon out first. The next day, the bully approached the trio. He asked Si-yoon to meet a lawyer and vouch for him, to say that the illegal substance wasn't his. That way, he wouldn't have to go to juvenile detention. He even pulled the emotional card saying, "If I'm gone, my mom won't survive." Then suddenly got on his knees in front of Si-yoon. Seeing this, Si-yoon felt sympathy, so he agreed to the request. But once they reached the destination, Si-yoon realized he had been tricked. The man wasn't a lawyer at all. He was the gang boss who had been waiting in ambush. The gang boss shouted at the three, "My guy is seriously injured, and he doesn't have insurance. You owe me 15 million won in compensation." Just as Suho was about to step in, the boss immediately pulled out a knife and threatened them. With a stern expression, he warned, "I'm dead serious." He demanded they bring the money for medical bills within 3 days. Seeing how dangerous he was, Suho and the others had no choice but to agree to the unreasonable demand. Before leaving, the gang boss even slashed Suho's arm. Then he and his thugs walked off, leaving Si-yoon and his friends in a daze. The next day, sure enough, the gang boss was already staking out the school gate. Day or night, whenever they stepped outside the school, the gang members would follow right behind them. Even Suho's workplace wasn't spared. It was clear the boss wouldn't let them off unless he got the money. Si-yoon was at his wit's end, so he reached out to Mi, one of the boss's henchmen. The two had met once before. It was raining that day, and Mi didn't have an umbrella. Si-yoon happened to pass by. That's how they got acquainted. They shared a meal together. and even exchanged contact information. Seon could tell that Mi wasn't a bad person, so he tried to gather information about the gang boss through him. Mi warned him to be extremely careful. "The boss is a scumbag," he said. "He'll stop at nothing for money. You need to gather as much money as you can for him, even if it's only half. I got involved with him because I was in debt," Mi confessed, "and to this day, I still can't get out." Even though Mi warned him, Seon knew deep down that money alone wouldn't solve the problem. Soon enough, the third day, the deadline arrived. Shiho quietly said, "Leave this to me." Then he pulled out 15 million won. He lied, saying his parents had given it to him. But under Suho's persistent questioning, Shiho finally admitted he had secretly sold his father's watch to get the money. The other two immediately rejected the idea. That's when Si-eun took out his phone. It contained evidence Mi had sent him of the gang boss's crimes. Turns out the boss had been running a fraudulent gambling site. Young users would win a few times at first to hook them in, then they'd lose everything once they were completely addicted. After that, the boss would offer high-interest loans to squeeze out every last bit of value. If they couldn't repay, he would threaten their parents. All the proof of these crimes was locked inside the gang's headquarters safe. But pictures alone weren't enough. They needed to catch them red-handed at the scene. Only then could the police be called in to make arrests. While they were still working out their plan, the gang boss suddenly showed up outside the school gate again. They had no choice but to act on the spot. Suho decided to act as bait and go with him. Once he confirmed the gang's base, Seon would call the police to raid it. Suho then approached the gang boss, claiming he had a profitable business deal to cover the medical costs. Hearing the word money, the boss eagerly took him to their hideout. But unexpectedly, Shiho, who was still scared, couldn't hold back. He still believed that paying would fix everything, so he took a taxi and followed them. Mi also arrived at that moment. Sensing something was wrong, he gave Seon the suspected address. Then Seon confirmed it with Suho. Suho soon arrived at the hideout with the boss. But the boss wasn't stupid. He immediately demanded Suho's phone. But Suho refused. This led to a beating from the boss. After grabbing the phone, the boss saw their chat logs. He realized the police were on their way. In anger, he kicked Suho unconscious. He ordered his men to take the evidence and leave, but as they reached the door, they encountered Byum-seok. Seeing Suho barely conscious, he quickly offered 15 million won, begging the boss to let them go. The boss, seeing him alone, took him along as well. When Seon arrived with the police, unfortunately, it was too late. The boss and his men had already fled. The police left, lacking a search warrant. Desperate, Seon climbed over the wall. Inside, he found nothing but a pool of blood on the floor. Seon felt something was terribly wrong. He quickly tried to call Suho, but no one answered the phone. Even the safe where the evidence was kept was empty. Only then did Seon realize how serious things had become. Upon realizing he was betrayed by his own men, the boss called the thug leader and ordered him to bring Mi. The thug leader, feeling guilty, couldn't bear to see Mi get hurt. He gave Mi some money and told him to hide, but Mi's younger brother was still in the boss's hands. He couldn't just abandon his brother. At that moment, Seon called and said the boss had taken both Byum-seok and Suho. Mi decided to use himself as bait, so Seon could bring the police once the boss appeared. Upon seeing the address, Seon rushed out. The boss saw the thug leader still protecting Mi and kicked him without hesitation. Then he gave him a brutal lecture. Seeing the thug leader being beaten, Mi shouted at the boss to stop, but he was also captured. The boss then grabbed a knife and aimed it at Suho. Luckily, at that crucial moment, the thug leader intervened and pushed the boss aside. A fierce fight broke out. Although the boss often relied on intimidation, but in a bare-handed fight, he was still deadly with every move. He launched a flying kick directly at the thug leader. Luckily, Mi struck from behind with a stick, knocking the boss down. Then he pointed the stick at the boss, threatening him. But it didn't work at all. The boss grabbed Mi by the neck. At that critical moment, the sound of a police siren came from behind them. The boss quickly let go of Mi. Then Seon arrived, panting heavily. He said the police were on their way. Soon all their crimes would be exposed. Realizing the danger, the boss turned and ran. Everyone finally breathed a sigh of relief. But just as they were about to leave, the boss returned. It turned out the siren was just a sound from Seon's phone. Enraged, the boss went to attack them. He even slashed Seon's handsome face with a knife. Frightened, Seon backed away. Fortunately, a real police officer passed by and drew his gun at the scene. As he was calling for backup, the boss shoved his own man toward the officer and made a run for it. Seon didn't hesitate and chased after him. He caught up at a corner. Seon raised his stick and swung, but the boss countered with a judo throw, slamming him to the ground. Just as the boss was about to deal a deadly blow, Suho arrived just in time to save Seon. Together, the two of them finally took the boss down. Meanwhile, the thug leader stayed behind to cover them. He helped me and his brother escape. He remained to stall the police. Eventually, the boss and his men were arrested by the police. While Si-eun and Beom-seok were giving statements at the station, a man in a suit released Si-eun without question and erased their police records. He then took Beom-seok and the boss into another room. The man closed the blinds and told Beom-seok to take revenge. He said, "This is your father's wish." But Beom-seok refused, so the man in the suit delivered the beating himself. One punch left the boss completely dazed. He even tried to demonstrate proper punching to Beom-seok. The poor boss tried to resist, only to get punched again. Terrified, Beom-seok quietly closed the door. Meanwhile, as Si-eun was leaving the station, he ran into me. Together they went to the hospital to visit Suho. Si-eun was very curious about how Beom-seok's family could erase all of their police records, and all of Suho's hospital expenses were covered by Beom-seok's father. He must be the president of some company. Si-eun's reply left them speechless. "There's nothing we can do." Meanwhile, when Beom-seok got home, he was standing there, trembling, completely undressed, and he was about to be beaten by his father with a golf club. But the father didn't realize this kind of punishment would push Beom-seok further into darkness. The next day, when Beom-seok went to school, everyone looked at him strangely. They were curious whether the three of them really caught the boss. Beom-seok didn't hide anything, and he actually enjoyed all the attention. At dinner, the three of them planned to eat out together on the weekend. Suho said he would invite me as well. Beom-seok agreed without hesitation, but before they went out, Beom-seok opened his social media. To his surprise, Suho followed me but not him, and their photos together made him feel jealous. The three of them went out together, but Suho only paid attention to me, basically ignoring Beom-seok. Even when buying coffee, Beom-seok was treated like an errand boy. It really upset him. Later that evening at karaoke, feeling left out, Beom-seok decided to buy drinks. Unexpectedly, he ran into a classmate who used to bully him. Frightened, he quickly hid. But when he returned to the room, he found Mai using his phone to take a call. It was a call from the same classmate who bullied him. Mi even accidentally told him Beom-seok's location. When Beom-seok found out, he was furious. He rushed over to Mi, ready to hit him. Thankfully, Suho stepped in just in time. Mi, upset and confused, stormed out of the room. Seeing this, Suho went out to comfort him. But the very next second, the bully arrived. Si-eun, from their conversation, realized something was wrong. The next morning at school, Beom-seok, still asleep, was woken up by his classmates. Without saying a word, he rushed over to confront them. But they just laughed at him, saying he was nothing without Si-eun and Suho backing him up. Those words infuriated Beom-seok. He was about to fight them, but Suho stopped him again. Angrily, Beom-seok shook Suho off. He shouted, "Don't act like we're close anymore." Suho was stunned by the outburst. Beom-seok's mental state was clearly deteriorating, and so he didn't go to school for several days. Both Suho and Si-eun were worried about him, so they decided to visit his home and check on him. Beom-seok finally opened up about everything that had been bothering him. He admitted that his father was a prosecutor, and that he himself had been officially adopted by him. To avoid tarnishing his father's reputation, Beom-seok never dared to get into fights. Because of this, he was often bullied by others. Feeling helpless, he had no choice but to transfer schools. Since that night at the karaoke, those guys had been harassing him daily. He was forced to even turn off his phone just to find peace. To help his friend out, Suho decided to confront those guys personally. The three of them headed to the karaoke place. As soon as Beom-seok entered, he demanded an apology. The others burst out laughing at him. They thought he had lost his mind. They mocked him right to his face. Suho didn't waste time. He grabbed one of them by the ear, forcing him to apologize to Beom-seok, but the guy showed zero sincerity. Beom-seok slapped him hard across the face. The guy got angry and slapped him back, knocking Beom-seok's glasses off in the process. Now furious, Beom-seok picked up a microphone to hit him. But Suho, not wanting things to escalate, stepped in again. However, Beom-seok didn't appreciate it. "Why do you always try to control me? You tell me to stop and I just have to stop? Do you even know what they did to me? Have I ever tried to stop you before? Am I your sidekick now? Whatever you say, I just go along with it?" Annoyed, Suho shoved him away. Beom-seok didn't say a word. His eyes were brimming with tears. He quietly turned and walked away. Seeing Beom-seok so broken, Si-eun and Suho were both confused by his actions. Just then, outside the karaoke place, Beom-seok ran into some school bullies. As he tried to leave, the guys from karaoke also came out. The two schools had always had a bad relationship. As the saying goes, two tigers can't share one mountain. Seeing Beom-seok being bullied, the school bullies brought the karaoke gang to the parking lot. They beat them up without mercy. Then they took all the money they had. but the leader of the karaoke gang wasn't willing to accept defeat. He glared fiercely at Beom-seok, muttering curses under his breath. Beom-seok couldn't tolerate it any longer. He kicked him hard. At that moment, Beom-seok completely lost it. His mind was filled with memories of his father's pressure and the long-term bullying he had endured. At that moment, all the anger Beom-seok had suppressed for years finally erupted. The others were so terrified they didn't dare mess with him again. After it was all over, Beom-seok went to a bar with the school bullies. He even generously paid for everything they ate and drank. At first, he was a bit timid, but after a few drinks, Beom-seok became uncontrollable. He unfollowed Suho's account without hesitation. Then he boldly approached girls at the next table, flirting. He thoroughly enjoyed the attention, under the influence of alcohol, and he gradually lost himself and forgot the past. It was the first step down a dark path. The next day, Beom-seok returned to school in a daze. He completely ignored Seon's greeting. He walked straight up to the bullies, chatting cheerfully about last night. After class, he even lit a cigarette in the restroom. Seeing Beom-seok willingly fall into this lifestyle, Seon couldn't bear it anymore. He pulled Beom-seok into the hallway, asking why he was getting so close to those people. But Beom-seok said Suho never really looked at him properly, treating him like a lackey the whole time. Little did he know, Suho overheard it all. Beom-seok immediately turned around and left without another word. That evening, Seon had a heart-to-heart with Suho. He believed Beom-seok was just being used by others. At the bar, Beom-seok had paid for their clothes and shoes too. Those kinds of people love to take advantage of someone like him. But Suho thought Beom-seok actually wanted that kind of life, because it was the only way he could feel secure. The next day, as Ji-eun approached the bullies again, he warned them to back off, to stop dragging Beom-seok into their mess, but the bullies didn't take it seriously at all. They said it was no big deal, that he came willingly, and they couldn't stop him anyway. Seon gave them a cold glare. When lunchtime arrived, everyone was lining up for food, but Beom-seok and his group cut the line. There's no way Suho would let that slide. He threw one of them out of the line right away. The others were shocked and quickly got in line. Only Beom-seok remained standing in place. At first, Suho still saw him as an old friend, and tried to persuade him to queue. But Beom-seok ignored Suho and looked toward Si-eun, wanting to hear his opinion, but even Si-eun was too stunned to speak. Without another word, Suho struck Beom-seok and knocked him away. Si-eun quickly stepped in to stop them. Beom-seok glared at Suho, then walked away. Just as he left the school gates, he decided to hire someone to take Suho down. The bullies thought of Young-gun. Young-gun was also a boxer. Tempted by 1 million won, Young-gun gladly agreed to handle it for Beom-seok, and the attack was scheduled for Saturday on Suho's birthday. After Beom-seok left, the bullies mentioned that Young-gun had been defeated by Suho before. To make sure nothing went wrong, they decided to prepare a little trap in advance. While Suho was out delivering food, they secretly sabotaged his motorcycle. Suho noticed something was wrong mid-delivery, but it was already too late. The bike kept speeding up. While trying to dodge traffic, he eventually fell to the ground. Seeing this, the bullies were terrified something serious might happen. They panicked and ran away. Only Beom-seok remained, staring silently. The next day, Suho walked into class with an injured leg. As soon as he sat down, he saw Beom-seok staring at him. Seeing that look in his eyes, Suho realized everything that happened last night had something to do with Beom-seok. After class, he didn't forget to warn him. Soon, it was Suho's birthday. Seon and Suyeon were carefully preparing a birthday party for him. But Suyeon suddenly got a message from Beom-seok. He said there was a mysterious gift for Suho and asked her to come get it. He also told her not to tell anyone. Suyeon didn't suspect anything. She went straight to meet Beom-seok. He thought Beom-seok wanted to make peace again. Suyeon then apologized to him. She admitted she shouldn't have answered his phone that day without permission. Suyeon sincerely wanted to fix their relationship, but Beom-seok didn't care at all. Then Suyeon turned her head and noticed a group of bullies sitting nearby, giving Beom-seok a cold, eerie look. She instantly realized it was a trap. At that moment, Seon was trying to call Suyeon, but no one was answering. Then he accidentally saw a message pop up on Suho's phone. He opened it and realized it was from Beom-seok, with a photo showing Suyeon being taken away. He demanded Suho come to a specific place, or else there would be consequences. Seon thought back on all the grudges and finally understood everything. To keep Suho from getting hurt again, he mentally prepared himself to face it alone. He then deleted the chat and turned off his phone. Then he hid the phone under the couch. Finally, he told Suho he was going out to buy something and asked him to wait. He followed the address to an abandoned building. As Seon walked, he studied the layout. When he reached them, Beom-seok looked genuinely surprised. But the bullies were overjoyed. There was bad blood between them already. "Let's end everything between us today," they said. Sensing danger, Seon grabbed Soo-yeon and ran, but the bullies chased them down relentlessly. Seeing no way to escape, Seon told Soo-yeon to go call the police. Then he stayed back and fought alone. Using the building structure to his advantage, Seon quickly counterattacked. He picked up an iron rod and walked toward the bullies. They were so scared they nearly peed themselves. But just as Seon was about to strike, a voice called out to stop him. It was Young-gun who had arrived. He showed no fear of Seon's weapon. He threw fast and precise punches. Soon, Seon was knocked to the ground. As he lay there, the bullies moved in with iron rods, ready to strike. But just as they were about to hit him, Beom-seok stopped them. But there was no way the bullies were letting this chance go. They ignored Beom-seok completely and began brutally beating Seon. After getting tired, they took turns, beating and cursing him relentlessly. Seon was too weak to resist and could only endure the beating. Beom-seok witnessed everything with his own eyes, but instead of stepping in, he chose to walk away. At this critical moment, the bullies noticed that Soo-yeon had arrived with the police. Everyone panicked and ran off in fear. Before leaving, one of the bullies still managed to mock Seon to his face. Seon collapsed on the ground. All he could do was wait for the police to rescue him. Meanwhile, Soo-ho had just woken up, but Soo-yeon and Seon still hadn't returned. A bad feeling crept into his heart. On the other side, Soo-yeon was reporting the incident to the police, but she was suddenly interrupted by Seon. He told the police that it was a personal matter, that he had simply tripped and fallen, and no one else was involved. He said this to avoid getting Beom-seok into trouble. Seon then asked Soo-yeon not to tell Soo-ho anything. After all, both of them were his friends. If Soo-ho found out, he would never forgive Beom-seok, and things would only get worse. After that, he called Beom-seok and told him to stop, but Beom-seok stayed silent and said nothing. Because for him, everything was just beginning. The next day, Soo-ho noticed both Seon and Beom-seok were absent from class. Seon, being a top student, would never skip school. So Soo-ho tried calling him, but Seon didn't answer, not wanting him to worry. Instead, he sent a text message, saying there was a family matter and he'd be absent for 2 days. When Soo-ho asked Soo-yeon about it, she hesitated, which made Soo-ho even more confused. That evening, he went to Seon's house, but no matter how hard he rang the bell, no one answered. A terrible feeling rose up in Soo-ho's chest. The next day, he went to confront the bullies. After some pressure, they admitted that Beom-seok was involved. After class, the bullies wondered aloud if Seon hadn't shown up because he was dead. Little did they know that Soo-ho had overheard them. If looks could kill, they'd have died 100 times over. In the end, the bullies lined up obediently, waiting in silence for Soo-ho's wrath. Punch after punch landed, until finally the fourth person spilled the truth. Once Soo-ho learned the full story, he was filled with guilt. After school, he went to find Soo-yeon. He asked which hospital Seon was in. Seeing that he already knew the truth, Soo-yeon didn't hide it anymore. They said that Seon would be discharged today. Shortly after, Soo-ho went to Seon's home. Seeing that Seon was safe and sound, Soo-ho couldn't help but feel a mix of overwhelming joy and guilt. Even though Soo-ho didn't say anything outright, he hated the thought of a friend risking his life for him. Seon tried to hide the wounds on his hand, but Soo-ho noticed them anyway. This time, he didn't ask any further questions. He understood that some problems had to be faced alone. That's right, he was ready to explode. Soo-ho now had one goal, to find Beom-seok and take revenge for Seon. Meanwhile, Beom-seok was in trouble. His politician father found out about the fight and began hitting him with punches and kicks. But Beom-seok was used to this kind of treatment. All he could do was lie on the floor and endure it. That night, he managed to sneak out, evading the bodyguards. When he checked his phone, he saw a string of missed calls from Soo-ho, along with a photo threat, "If you don't answer, I'll take out your gang, one by one." At that moment, Soo-ho was forcing the gang to call out Beom-seok. With his fingers on the line, luckily Beom-seok called back just in time. They agreed to meet at Young-gun's boxing gym. When Soo-ho opened the gym door, he saw 7 or 8 guys already waiting inside. He walked straight up to Beom-seok, staring him down. "I'm sorry, made me prefer it more?" "Because I apologized." "You apologized to Seon and Young-hee too." Seeing that Beom-seok had no reaction, Soo-ho punched him hard in the face. Beom-seok, being physically weak, couldn't take it. He collapsed instantly. When Young-gun saw his boss get hit, he challenged Soo-ho to a match in the ring. Of course, Soo-ho accepted without hesitation. But first, he needed to warm up. With each strike he threw, he took down every one of the small-time thugs. Now only one remained, his old defeated rival. Before stepping into the ring, he shot Beom-seok a fierce glare as if to say, "You're next." Young-gun, already in the ring, was full of arrogance. He picked up his phone, planning to record the fight. He had once lost to Suho before, but now that Suho had retired, he desperately wanted to defeat him in front of everyone. But Suho didn't take him seriously at all. He didn't even give Younggun a chance to speak. He charged in, aiming to end it quickly. But he didn't want Younggun to know his left leg was injured, so Younggun kept targeting that leg. Suho had no choice but to fight through the pain. Eventually, he flipped Younggun over with a perfect shoulder throw. He followed with a flurry of heavy punches to his head, but Younggun was no pushover. He found an opening and kicked Suho hard. Suho was already injured, so Younggun pinned him into the corner. Fortunately, Suho managed to block the blows. Then Suho started to counterattack with solid punches. Just as Suho was gaining the upper hand, one of the bullies grabbed his foot from below the ring. Before Suho could react, Younggun landed a sneak kick to his head. Suho was dazed from the hit, and just like that, he lost to a dirty trick. Then Beom-seok slowly walked up. He humiliated Suho with words, then kicked him in the head. Beom-seok had completely turned into a monster, blinded by rage and hatred. Seeing this, the other thugs jumped in and joined the beating. They didn't realize how much trouble they were causing. Just then, Beom-seok's bodyguards arrived. Only then did everyone stop attacking. As the guards tried to take Beom-seok away, the bullies finally noticed that Suho was no longer breathing. Everyone was stunned. They panicked and tried to flee the scene, but the guards blocked their way. Beom-seok was filled with regret. He grabbed Suho's hand, trying to wake him up, but Suho would never open his eyes again. Beom-seok finally realized the gravity of his actions. He had pushed his best friend into a corner step by step. But now, there was no way to go back to how things were. The bodyguards dragged him away from the scene. After detaining the remaining bullies, they ordered them to delete all footage, and to keep their mouths shut. They warned them to tell the police that Suho just fainted on his own. They even threatened to lock them up in a juvenile facility if they didn't comply. Under pressure from the bodyguards, the bullies had no choice but to obey. The next day, after Soo-yeon finished his exam, he finally saw that Soo-yeon had called him countless times. He immediately called her back. Crying over the phone, Soo-yeon told Soo-yeon everything that had happened. After school, Soo-yeon went to the hospital. Seeing Suho lying unconscious, Soo-yeon felt powerless for not being able to protect his friend. All his frustration turned into tears. Although the hospital managed to save Suho's life, unfortunately, he had fallen into a vegetative state. Soo-yeon quietly walked down the corridor. There was only one thought in his mind: to get revenge for his best friend. He had endured enough, it was time to act. Meanwhile, Beom-seok and the bullies had no idea that a storm was coming. First, Soo-yeon went to the school where the bullies studied. In front of the entire class, he gave one of them a brutal beating. Afterwards, he asked about what had happened to Suho, but the bully was unwilling to speak, so Soo-yeon took out a pin and stabbed it into his shoulder without hesitation. Only then did the bully confess everything. Terrified, he insisted he wasn't there and had nothing to do with it. Then he showed a video his friend had recorded that day. Seeing the video, Soo-yeon was filled with rage. After finding out where Younggun usually trained, he quietly grabbed a wooden stick and went after him. At the time, Younggun was still focused on training. Even though Soo-yeon tried to ambush him from behind, Younggun sensed danger and dodged, even countering with 2 punches. Boxing clearly wasn't Soo-yeon's strong suit. Then Younggun threw another heavy punch. Soo-yeon took the opportunity to grab his waist. He quickly pulled out a pair of scissors and tried to stab him, but the move was too weak to land a hit. Younggun threw him aside with ease, grabbed his hair, and started pummeling him. Just as Younggun was about to leave, Soo-yeon quickly untied his shoelaces and looped them around his neck. Then he smashed him hard into the floor. In rage, Younggun kicked back again. Soo-yeon was like a sandbag, taking blow after blow. Luckily, he dodged just in time, and Younggun's punch hit a dumbbell instead, jamming his hand. Soo-yeon immediately took the chance and crushed his leg with the dumbbell. At that point, Younggun finally begged for mercy. He admitted he was only hired for the job, and that the mastermind behind it all was Beom-seok. But Soo-yeon already knew that. He landed another blow, disabling Younggun's other leg. His goal was to ensure that Younggun could never box again. Meanwhile, Beom-seok's father was arranging for him to transfer overseas. He even personally brought Beom-seok to school for his final exams. The reason for doing so? In truth, it was all to protect his own reputation. But just as the exam was about to start, Soo-yeon entered the room carrying a fire extinguisher. He glared at Beom-seok first, then beat down all the bullies who had taken part in the incident. The teacher stood frozen in shock and quickly called the police. After taking care of the thugs, Soo-yeon was completely exhausted. Still, he calmly walked up to Beom-seok, too close for comfort. At that moment, Beom-seok stopped resisting, ready to take Soo-yeon's final blow. But standing before his former friend, Soo-yeon couldn't bring himself to strike. Instead, he smashed a school window. He just couldn't understand how things had come to this. Was studying really that hard? That night, Soo-yoon visited Suho again and quietly lowered his head. Suddenly, a flash of golden light appeared. It was Suho waking up. Seeing that, Soo-yoon couldn't help but smile, but sadly, it was only a dream. He wished so badly to return to the days when the three of them were close, going to and from school together, laughing in class. But that was no longer possible. After the exam, Byung-suk was sent abroad by his father. At first, his father wanted to sue Si-eun and put him in juvenile detention, but after seeing the video of his son, he had no choice but to compromise. He agreed to drop the matter in exchange for Si-eun transferring schools. But things didn't end there. Using his influence, Byung-suk's father pressured every school in the city to reject Si-eun. Luckily, there was one school willing to take him in. The notorious Enzo High School. It was known as the worst school, and Si-eun was placed in the worst class. Si-eun sat quietly at his desk. Then, a student walked up to him and openly provoked him, but Si-eun didn't react at all. The student threatened to tear his mouth apart. But to Si-eun, such threats meant nothing now. He calmly pulled out a pen and stared him down. A new chapter of Se-eun's journey was about to begin, and that's where the story ends. Thanks for those all watching till end. If you liked the video, please like and follow me. More excitement movie coming every week.